Why are we here? Anna, I'm here because my boss is sick, and I have to talk in her stead. I'm going to be talking in English. I hope that's not a problem. And why are we here? Why are you here? We're redefining education, yes? Redefining education. Why do we need to redefine education? There's something wrong in education, and we all feel it, and we don't really know what's wrong. But there's something that's wrong, because a lot of us have studied things that we don't really care about. A lot of us have done things, have gone to very, very long lengths to do things that we don't really care about. So why do it? Why do we do it? And why is it wrong? And so the question becomes, why do we educate our children? Yeah? And the answer that you usually get with asking different people is that we educate our children because they are our future. And they are going to take our place, and they're going to make the world a better place, which is a fair answer, but doesn't really answer the question. How do we develop our kids? I mean, did we ask the children? And that's why we're here. Educate Me, the organization that I work with, asks that question primarily. What do the kids want to learn? Now, we ask ourselves this question quite a lot. What do the kids want to learn? What do they need to learn? All of that. And eventually, Yasmin, my founder, my boss, she called me up in the middle of the night and she tells me, let's ask the children. Let's ask the children what they need, what they want to learn. That changed everything. That was about 6 months ago. And this project has been going for a year and a half. 6 months ago, we found the answer. We found the answer in asking children. Now, the answer we found was that everybody wants and needs to study different things, because everybody wants and needs different things out of life. And as our speakers have been saying, that our wants and needs really dictate our paths, that education is life. So where do we go from there? What we actually did, I'm going to tell you about our pilot program called Ask the Children. And in this program, what we did is we sat down with a group of 10 kids from an underprivileged area in Haram, next to Talbiyah, called Kunaisa. And in this area, we sat with these 10 kids, aged 7 to 13, and we sat down in a little circle, and we asked them what they wanted to do. And first, they didn't really take us seriously, because they didn't imagine that we could actually do what they wanted to do. So they started talking about different things. Somebody said, عايز أتعلم عن تعبان البحر, snake, eels. Different things, very, very random. And then eventually when we, approached them again, they started telling us, no, we want to do swimming, we want to do, we want to learn Kung Fu, things that inspire them from their environment. So we started asking them how they were going to go about doing it, right? Instead of actually just bringing them closer to their dream by providing them with the resources they needed to do what they wanted to do, we told them, or we asked them, really. We asked them how they were going to go about getting them, right? So a little resource management or planning, right? And we really asked them, so you want to do swimming, right? What are you going to need in order to do swimming? Swimming pool, somebody to teach me, preferably a swimming suit, towel, so on, yeah? And they create the list, right? Each kid creates his own list of things that they need in order to do what they want to do. After that, they start thinking, okay, how much money does this mean, right? Because I'm going to need money, I'm going to need resources to do what I want to do. And so they eventually come up with a list, and this list was quite large, and they decided, or they calculated together. They needed 1,700 pounds exactly to get everything, so that each and every one of them was going to be able to do exactly what they wanted to do for 1 month. 1 month, 1,700 pounds. And then finally we asked them, okay, 1,700 pounds, how are we going to get that? Yeah? And so we left them with that question, and we didn't really know whether or not they were going to be able to answer it. So we had a lot of meetings, and the kids had no idea what we were doing, but we're in back office meetings trying to figure out what's the next step, what are they going to do, are they going to be able to live up to this task or not? Yeah? And eventually, they call us up in the middle of the week, and they tell us, you have to come now, right? We made things and we want to sell them. And so the next day we were there at their area, and we saw that they'd created things, they'd recycled things from their environment, little pieces of metal, coils of thread, right? And they used them to make these beauty products that they were planning to sell. Okay, let's sell this stuff. Okay, so they weren't very pretty, right? I mean, the taste in them wasn't all that good. But they saw that if people understood what they were trying to do, that they were trying to achieve their dreams, that they would want to invest. And so they capitalized on this. And this is not something that we told them. This is something that they decided on themselves, right? So what happened next is they decided they had this few things, like about 20, 30 necklaces, and bracelets, and a couple of frames. And decided, okay, so if we sell all of this stuff, it's not going to make us enough money. So what we're going to do is we're going to sell all of this stuff and use the money to buy more resources, to make more stuff, to make more money, so we can do what we want to do. That's exactly what we did. And of course, throughout this, all we're doing as facilitators is just asking them the right questions. I'll get back to that in a bit. So what ended up happening is they started producing a lot. And towards the end, where they felt that they had enough things, that they'd made enough things to be sold, they started thinking, how am I going to sell this? And we sat aside at this point. We were standing by the doors and having these 10 children, average age of 9 years old, discuss what kind of marketing campaign they were going to come up with. And again, these are children from an underprivileged area, and they have very, very bad education. Our public education system's terrible there, right? And so they started discussing, okay, so who's our target, right? Because we're making mainly things that apply to women, right? Women would buy the bracelets and the necklaces and the frames and everything. So let's make it a female-only gallery. But then somebody said, well, maybe there's a man who wants to buy something for his wife or his daughter, so no, let's widen it up. And then they started coming up with all this plan, and we provided them with the place where they were going to sell their stuff. And they went there. They told us, no, we need to go there a week before so we can check out the place, this gallery, and we need to see where we're going to put everything, right? Because we're going to do different things with different places. So they went and they saw in the gallery a lot of things that were on show, right? In this gallery, they saw like paintings and little artifacts here and there, and they were all very pretty. And they started realizing through seeing these things that the things that they made themselves weren't very good. I mean, yeah, it's nice and it's pleasant and all that, but they weren't of very high quality. So they thought to themselves, maybe I want to put them through an experience. You know, maybe they won't like what I have to sell, but if they like the day generally, maybe they'll give me money, right? So many months before, they created this cartoon. We taught them origami, and they decided to create a cartoon with origami. And that cartoon actually won in the International Child Film Festival a couple of weeks ago. And so they decided to show that cartoon in one of the rooms, right? In one of the rooms, they asked us to provide them with a TV. So one of us got the TV from his home, set up the TV, and they showed this cartoon there. They saw a couple of tables, so they're like, okay, we know how to do origami, so let's teach people how to do origami. And we're not going to charge them for anything. We're not going to there isn't any financial side of it. But from a marketing perspective, from a sales perspective, they thought if people enjoy the experience, they're going to want to help us, which is a very, very smart, I mean, anybody here who likes sales or marketing will know how smart that is, right? And again, average age 9 years old, education 0. I mean, formal education. We'll get to that in a bit. So what happened? During the day, or before the day, they divided roles amongst themselves. So you had a little girl by the door who was greeting the customers, right, the visitors. Little tiny girl, 7 years old, Habiba. And she'd say hello, very presentable, very courteous, very nice. Hello, how are you? Please join us. And then she'd automatically take them to another girl who was sitting by a desk. And this girl was writing down names. And obviously, the reason why the first girl was bringing her there is because that's where they pay the tickets. You know? So you have to pay. So write down the names, all of that. And then they take them for a tour of the place, show them everything that's around. And and throughout the entire process, they were coordinating everything. And we were standing in the middle, not really knowing what to do, because nobody told us what to do. And we were just talking to the guests whenever they wanted to talk to us. And it was a fun day. And I remember, I mean, one of my most cherished memories was Mustafa, a little boy, very, very naughty, about 8 years old. And he told me this one thing, ما أجمل المعرفة بالأصدقاء, which really, really was quite beautiful to me. Yeah? And this was a kid who didn't really do what he was expected to do. He didn't play his role, but he enjoyed himself, right? Which is really key. And so, to sum that up, they needed 1,700 pounds. They ended up raising 3,330 pounds. Yeah? One day, one event, couple of months of planning, a couple of months of deliberation, and these kids, almost alone, raised 3,300 pounds. Now, I'm telling you this story, first to tell you about what we're doing and why we're doing it, but also to bring us to a point of how we do what we do, which one of our wonderful speakers mentioned earlier. I can't see him now, but yeah. Anyway, so how we do what we do, which is important. How do we do it? How do we teach our children? How do they learn? Right? And we've heard of a lot of different theories. We've been researching a lot about how people learn. And what we found is that people learn through curiosity. And this is where I'm going to reference Einstein, because you have to reference Einstein when it comes to education. And Einstein, how do we remember Einstein? We remember Einstein with E equals mc squared, yes? We all remember that. Even those of us who aren't in the sciences remember E equals mc squared, yeah? But that's not all he said. It's not all what he did, right? He was about much more. And there's one quote that's always been with us, always given us drive. And it's a quote that until now we still struggle to understand. He says about himself, I have no special talent. I am only passionately curious. Passionately curious. What does that mean? What does it mean to be passionately curious? And that's something that became a research question to us. If we're going to learn through curiosity, what is curiosity? Now, through our research, I'm going to tell you the boring part. Now, there are two kinds of curiosities, divergent and convergent, right? Divergent is when pretty much you're bored with what you're doing right now, and you're kind of interested in everything else around you, because what you're doing right now is terribly boring, right? So you'll start looking around, looking at the ceiling, kind of, yeah. And you do that. Now, how do you engage that? How do you engage divergent curiosity, and why is it important? Divergent curiosity is important because it leads to convergent curiosity, which is the second type. Convergent curiosity is the fixation, a person fixating on one interest, yeah? Becoming interested in one particular thing. Now, you can have several convergent curiosities, but what's important about convergent curiosities is that they motivate you to want to learn more about that subject and everything leading up to that, yeah? I'll go back to the example I gave you about what we do. These kids wanted to learn swimming, but ended up learning so much more. I mean, their experience with sales and marketing and production and all of this stuff was something that no kid would ever really think of doing or going through. But they did that because of one thing and one thing only. They wanted to do something, and we helped them figure out how they can do it. Now, we're here trying to redefine education, yeah? Like I said before, we all feel that it's lacking something, and we're not really sure what it is. Now, we have, at Educate Me, we have an idea. We think we know, right? We don't know for sure. We might be wrong. Somebody also said that. Also, yeah. We might be wrong, but what we think is that regardless who you are, where you're from, how old you are, what kind of background you have, regardless of all of that, everybody wants to be happy. And I don't think anybody can think of somebody who doesn't want to be happy. Everybody wants it. I mean, it's one, at least, universal truth. Now, the reason that's relevant is, if you're going to redefine education, then why not make it around that? Why don't you educate your children to be happy? Not just now, but in life. Sounds tricky. Or as somebody mentioned outside, fluffy. But it's doable. I mean, why else would you educate your children? If not to be happy, if not for that ideal, then why? So how do you do it? Now imagine that process I told you about, right? The process of asking a child what he wants to do, yeah? And then asking them how they're going to do it, and then having them enjoy actually doing it, like experience what they've been looking for. Now imagine that cycle taken out and multiplied throughout a lifetime. Imagine your life identifying the things that you like, the things that you're interested in, and then figuring out how you want to approach these things, and then actually going after them. Yeah? Imagine that kind of life. Imagine how it becomes a habit. Imagine if you had the habit of pursuing every single little dream you ever had. Yeah? Sometimes you'll fail. We know that. Yeah? But with the right kind of support system, any failure can become a learning experience. Because every time you fail, you want to not fail. Nobody wants to fail. So how do you get around it? You get around it by deciding that the things that made me fail are things that I'm going to learn from to not fail again. Yeah? And every time your dream changes, every time, every iteration of this process, your dream gets bigger or different or in a different field. And you keep engaging these divergent curiosities and they become convergent curiosities. And you follow them. And that becomes your life. Now, my life has become based around this idea. What Yasmin and I have realized is that we learned all of this not because we studied, not because we read, but because we invested ourselves, not in these children, but in this idea, as well as these children themselves, of course. We invested ourselves in the idea that people can be happy. And it's not just a happenstance. It's not something that just happens by mistake. It's something that can be designed. And education is our preferred means. Because education, as we've also mentioned today, is not necessarily what happens in a school. Education is what happens throughout your life. So, again, how do you educate for happiness? How do you educate for happiness? We've designed this program around it. This Educate Me program is a program that's entirely designed to tackle every single aspect of happiness through education. And that's what we're trying to do. We've identified the convergent and divergent methods of engaging curiosity. And we have an Ask the Children program and have the children know. So know what's out there. Know what's in the world. Right? Identify things around them to engage with. And we have other aspects as well. So there's the physical presence in the area. There's teaching them parents to help nurture these kids. Because, of course, we know that the parents themselves do have a very large part, or are responsible for a very large part of their socialization. So what they learn and how they interact with their environment, that's very important. How they interact with their environment. How many? It's a 0. Oh, I'm done. Well, the last thought I want to leave you with, think about what makes you happy. Think about the things that you're curious about. Think about the things, how you would want to live your life. Thank you very much.